200 hours, unnamed U.S. radar station, Western Pacific. The ocean is a slab of black glass under a moonless sky. Thick tropical humidity presses against the jungle foliage, creating a suffocating blanket of heat. Waves crash rhythmically against the jagged volcanic rocks of the northern shoreline. 2 U.S. security contractors patrol the perimeter fence, the beams of their flashlights cutting through the mist. The only sound is the drone of crickets and the steady mechanical hum of the nearby generator shed. A shape breaks the surface of the water 50 yards out. It is smooth, dark, and utterly silent. The lead sentry stops, tilting his head as a twig snaps somewhere in the darkness. He raises his assault rifle, squinting into the gloom, but sees only shifting shadows. He lowers the weapon, blaming the wind. Black-clad figures rise from the surf like an oil slick. They move with terrifying speed. The first diver lunges from the tall grass at the edge of the sand. A serrated combat knife flashes in the dim light. The blade sinks into the sentry's neck before he can cry out. Blood sprays across the white sand. His partner spins around, fumbling for the transmit button on his radio. A suppressed pistol coughs twice. 2 rounds smash into the guard's chest plate. The impact throws him off balance. A third round catches him in the unprotected throat. He collapses into the wet sand, gurgling as life drains away. The assault team drags the limp bodies into the dense undergrowth. Combat boots crunch softly on the coral beach. The team leader signals forward with a sharp, chopping hand motion. An engineer moves to the reinforced chain link fence with heavy bolt cutters. Steel snaps with a dull metallic sound. He works quickly, slicing through the metal links. They peel back the wire mesh, creating a jagged gap large enough for a man. One by one, 12 heavily armed Marines slip through the breach. Water drips from their wetsuits onto the dry earth. They fan out into a wedge formation, weapons raised high. The point man scans the jungle ahead with night vision goggles. Green phosphor light illuminates the path to the main complex. The team leader checks his watch and taps his headset. The perimeter is compromised. The silent phase is over. 2:10 hours, main compound gate. The harsh sodium floodlights buzz overhead, casting sickly yellow pools of light onto the cracked asphalt. Inside the reinforced guardhouse, a staff sergeant leans against the console, staring at a wall of monitors. The air conditioning unit rattles, fighting the tropical heat. On screen 4, the feed from the northern perimeter flickers and dies. The screen turns into a wash of gray static. The sergeant frowns. He taps the glass. He grabs the handset and keys the mic. "North Patrol, report." Only static hisses back. He looks up through the thick bulletproof glass. Movement catches his eye near the heavy steel vehicle barriers. A dark object sails through the air in a high arc. It clangs against the massive hinges of the primary gate. A red light blinks on the device. The explosion tears the night apart. A blinding white flash vaporizes the darkness. The shockwave hits the guardhouse like a physical hammer, blowing the reinforced windows inward. Shards of safety glass spray across the room like diamond dust. The heavy steel gates, weighing 2 tons each, rip violently from their concrete anchors. They somersault through the air, twisting like wet cardboard, and crash onto the tarmac with a deafening screech of tearing metal. Thick black smoke instantly engulfs the entrance. The alarm klaxon begins to scream. It cuts through the ringing in the sergeant's ears. He crawls across the floor, blood streaming from his nose, and kicks the general quarters button. Inside the nearby barracks, the sound of the explosion knocks picture frames off the walls. Men tumble from their bunks in a panic. They grab assault rifles and tactical vests. There is no time for boots or uniforms. Barefoot and adrenaline-fueled, they surge toward the exits. The first group of U.S. defenders kicks open the barracks door. A heavy machine gun opens up from the smoke-filled breach. Green tracer rounds slash through the humid air. The bullets punch through the wooden doorframe and into the lead soldiers. Their bodies jerk violently as the rounds impact their chest plates and unarmored limbs. Blood sprays against the white siding of the building. They collapse in a heap, blocking the doorway. From the darkness of the breached gate, the Chinese squad leader points toward the remaining guard tower. A soldier drops to one knee and shoulders a rocket launcher. The backblast kicks up a cloud of dust. The rocket shrieks across the courtyard. It slams into the base of the tower. The structure disintegrates. Concrete pillars crumble. The tower lists to the right, groaning under the stress before toppling completely. It crashes into the perimeter fence, burying the spotlight operator under tons of steel and rubble. Dust billows out, choking the air. The attacking force surges through the ruined gate. They move with practiced aggression. They step over the twisted wreckage of the steel doors, firing on the move. Their weapons spit controlled bursts at anything that moves. A U.S. soldier dives behind a concrete planter, raising his rifle to return fire. He manages 3 shots before a grenade lands at his feet. The explosion hurls his body backward, ragdolling him against the side of the generator shed. The defenders scramble for cover, pinned down by the relentless volume of fire pouring through the breach. The outer perimeter is gone. The enemy is inside. 2:15 hours, central courtyard. The air chokes with the acrid stench of cordite and burning rubber. The emergency sirens wail relentlessly, a mechanical scream overlaying the chaos. Orange flames from the wrecked guard tower lick at the night sky, casting long, dancing shadows across the open killing ground. U.S. Marines spill out of the rear exits of the barracks, diving behind concrete Jersey barriers and parked transport trucks. A Chinese heavy machine gunner mounts his weapon on the rubble of the main gate. The barrel glows red hot. He squeezes the trigger. Heavy caliber rounds chew up the asphalt, sending stone chips flying into the faces of the pinned defenders. A line of tracers slashes through the darkness, shattering the windshield of a parked Jeep. Glass sprays inward, covering the dashboard in glistening shards. A U.S. Marine pops up from behind a sandbag wall. He shoulders his assault rifle and fires a long burst. The rounds spark harmlessly off the concrete debris shielding the enemy gunner. A rocket trail hisses through the smoke. The projectile slams into the side of a parked armored vehicle used for cover. The explosion rips the heavy steel door off its hinges. It hurtles through the air, crushing a crate of supplies. Burning fuel sprays across the tarmac, igniting a pool of fire that walls off the left flank. Two defenders near the vehicle are thrown backward by the concussion. One drags himself away, coughing black soot. The other lies still, shrapnel embedded in his tactical vest. A medic sprints from the shadows, skidding on his knees to reach the wounded man. He rips open a medical pouch, hands slick with sweat and blood, trying to apply a tourniquet, while bullets snap overhead like cracking whips. The Chinese assault team bounds forward. One element fires suppressive bursts while the other dashes to new cover. They move with fluid precision. A soldier hurls a grenade. It tumbles across the open ground and detonates in a crater. The blast sends a geyser of dirt and jagged rock into the air, raining debris down on the American line. A U.S. lieutenant slams his fist against the hood of a truck. He screams into his radio handset, demanding air support. The radio offers only static. He drops the mic and grabs a retreating private by the vest, hauling him upright. "Suppress that flank!" he roars, pointing toward the advancing shadows. He raises his pistol and fires blindly into the smoke. The defensive line buckles under the weight of the assault. The volume of fire is too intense. Marines drag their wounded comrades back toward the heavy steel doors of the radar facility. They leave a trail of blood on the cracked concrete. The enemy fire intensifies, chipping away at the brickwork around the facility entrance. The courtyard is lost. 0:20 hours, motor pool west flank of the radar facility. Thick black smoke from the burning transport truck rolls across the tarmac, mixing with the low-hanging sea mist. Visibility drops to less than 10 meters. The staccato rhythm of gunfire echoes off the steel shipping containers stacked near the maintenance bay. The air tastes of burnt rubber and sulfur. A U.S. heavy machine gun nest sits entrenched behind a wall of sandbags at the main entrance of the radar building. The gunner tracks movement in the gloom. He clamps down on the butterfly trigger. The .50 caliber weapon roars. Huge brass casings spin out of the ejection port, clattering onto the concrete like hail. The rounds tear through the thin metal siding of the motor pool office, shredding the interior. Wood splinters and drywall dust explode outward. The Chinese squad leader presses his back against the tire of a parked fuel tanker. Bullets spark off the rim above his head, sending hot metal fragments into his helmet cover. He pulls a smoke canister from his vest, pulls the pin, and hurls it into the open killing zone. The canister skids across the pavement. It hisses violently, spewing a wall of dense, white chemical smoke. Within seconds, the machine gun nest is blinded. The heavy gun continues to fire, but the bursts are wild and high, chewing up the concrete overhang of the facility entrance. "Move!" the squad leader shouts over the din. 3 Chinese Marines break cover. They sprint low, weaving through the parked Humvees. They activate thermal optics on their helmets. Through the gray lenses, the world turns into shades of blue and black. The heat signature of the U.S. gunner glows bright white against the cool background of the sandbags. The lead attacker stops, braces his rifle on the hood of a Jeep, and fires 2 rapid shots. The rounds cut through the smoke. They strike the U.S. gunner in the upper chest. The impact lifts him off his feet. He slams backward into the wall of the building, his helmet skidding across the floor. The heavy machine gun falls silent. The assault team surges forward. They cross the open tarmac in a dead sprint. A remaining U.S. defender pops up from behind a concrete pillar, raising a shotgun. Before he can fire, a Chinese soldier sliding across the hood of a car engages him. A 3-round burst catches the American in the side. He spins around, dropping the shotgun, and collapses into a pile of empty crates. The team reaches the heavy blast doors of the radar facility. The point man slams his shoulder into the steel. Locked. He signals the demolition specialist. The engineer rushes forward, pulling a brick of plastic explosive from his pack. He jams the putty into the hinges and sets the detonator. The team stacks up against the brick wall, shielding their bodies. The path to the interior is clear. The door is the only thing left standing. 225 hours, main lobby, radar facility. The air inside the secure zone is cool and sterile, a sharp contrast to the humidity outside. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead. 3 U.S. security personnel crouch behind the solid oak reception desk. They grip their submachine guns, knuckles white. Barricades of overturned filing cabinets block the hallway. They stare at the massive steel blast doors. The handle twitches. A muffled drilling sound stops. Silence hangs heavy for a single heartbeat. The world explodes. The shaped charge shears the hardened steel hinges instantly. The blast door, weighing 500 pounds, hurtles into the lobby. It cartwheels through the air, smashing into the reception desk. Wood splinters violently. The heavy steel plate crushes the legs of the center guard. He screams, thrashing against the weight. The concussion wave hammers the remaining 2 defenders flat against the rear wall. Dust and pulverized drywall choke the room. 2 flashbang grenades bounce through the smoking breach. They skitter across the polished tile floor. Bang, bang. Blinding white light erupts. The sound is a physical blow that shatters equilibrium. The Chinese assault team streams through the smoke. They move fast, stepping over the twisted ruin of the door. Their weapons are raised. The first point man spots a U.S. defender trying to stand, ears bleeding from the pressure wave. The attacker fires 2 rounds. The bullets strike the American's tactical vest. The force throws him backward into a glass display case. The glass shatters, showering him in jagged shards. The second defender rolls behind a concrete pillar. He raises his weapon blindly and sprays the entrance. Bullets chip the tile floor and spark off the metal doorframe. A Chinese soldier slides across the floor on his knees. He brings his weapon up. He fires a tight burst into the exposed flank of the defender. The rounds tear through the uniform. The American collapses, his weapon clattering across the floor. The soldier pinned under the blast door fumbles for his sidearm. He raises the pistol with a shaking hand. The Chinese team leader steps forward. He kicks the pistol away. It slides under a vending machine. He fires once. The guard goes limp. The lobby is secured. Smoke drifts near the ceiling. Blood pools on the white tiles, mixing with the dust. The team leader checks the hallway ahead. He signals the stack to move. The stairs to the lower levels are open. 2:30 hours, sub-level 1 corridor. The facility's main power is dead. Emergency strobes pulse rhythmically, bathing the narrow concrete hallway in alternating washes of blood-red light and pitch blackness. Overhead pipes drip condensation onto the linoleum floor. The air is hot and stagnant. 20 meters down the hall, 4 U.S. Marines crouch behind a hasty barricade of overturned metal lockers and heavy server crates. They train their weapons on the steel fire door at the base of the stairwell. The silence is heavy, broken only by the hum of the emergency lighting. The handle of the fire door turns downward. A boot kicks the door open. It slams against the concrete wall. The U.S. Marines open fire instantly. Muzzle flashes light up the dark end of the hallway like a strobe light. A storm of bullets hammers the doorway. A Chinese point man steps into the kill zone, holding a heavy ballistic shield. The rounds impact the reinforced glass viewport and the composite shield face. Crack, crack, crack. The impacts sound like sledgehammers hitting a dumpster. Sparks cascade off the shield, showering the floor. The point man staggers under the kinetic force, but plants his boots and leans forward. Behind the shield, a second soldier leans out. He blindly sprays a submachine gun down the hall. The bullets chew up the drywall ceiling, raining plaster dust down on the Americans. A U.S. Marine rises to throw a grenade. A round catches him in the forearm. The grenade drops from his hand, rolling harmlessly away from the pin. He yells, clutching the wound, and slumps back behind the lockers. "Flash out!" a voice shouts from the stairwell. A cylinder arcs over the Chinese shield. It bounces once on the floor and explodes. The concussion overpressures the narrow hallway. The sound is deafening. It sucks the oxygen out of the air. The U.S. defenders clamp their hands over their ears, disoriented. The Chinese team surges. They step around the shield bearer, moving fast. They fire on the move. The bullets punch through the thin metal of the overturned lockers. A Marine takes a round to the thigh. The femoral artery bursts. Bright red blood jets across the floor, mixing with the plaster dust. He collapses, dragging the barricade down with him. Another Marine tries to return fire. A 3-round burst hits his chest plate. The force slams him against the wall. He slides down, leaving a smear of red on the white paint. The remaining 2 Americans grab the wounded man by his vest straps. They drag him backward, boots skidding on the slick floor. They retreat through the next bulkhead door and spin the locking wheel. The heavy steel door groans shut, sealing the corridor just as bullets spark against the metal frame. The hallway belongs to the attackers. 35 hours, entrance to main command center, sublevel 2. The red emergency lights bathe the heavy steel bulkhead in a sinister crimson glow. The air in the narrow corridor is thick with the dust of the previous battle. On the attackers' side, the Chinese assault team stacks up against the concrete walls, weapons trained on the sealed entrance. The door is naval-grade steel, built to withstand a direct hit from a mortar. There is no handle on the outside, only a smooth, impenetrable face of gray metal. Inside the command center, the atmosphere is desperate. 6 surviving U.S. Marines heave a heavy metal server rack across the floor. The casters screech against the tiles. They slam it against the door, adding to a barricade of overturned desks and filing cabinets. A gunnery sergeant checks the magazine of his pistol. It is his last one. He wipes sweat and grime from his eyes. His breathing is ragged. A young corporal wraps a bloody shirt around a shrapnel wound on his neck. The room smells of ozone from the overheating servers and the copper tang of blood. On the other side, the Chinese engineer steps forward. He attaches a magnetic drill press to the center of the steel door. The magnets clamp on with a solid thud. He racks the handle. The diamond-tipped bit spins into a blur. He pushes forward. The sound is excruciating. The drill bit shrieks as it bites into the hardened steel. Sparks shower the engineer's boots. Inside the room, the noise vibrates through the walls, setting teeth on edge. The Marines raise their weapons, aiming at the center of the door, waiting for it to buckle. The drill punches through. The high-pitched whine stops abruptly. A small hole, no wider than a coin, pierces the metal. The engineer unclips a canister from his belt. He inserts a plastic nozzle into the freshly drilled hole. He squeezes the trigger mechanism. Inside the command center, a hiss cuts through the silence. A jet of white gas sprays into the room under high pressure. It hits the far wall and billows outward, expanding instantly. "Gas, gas, gas," the sergeant roars. He dives for a gas mask hanging on the wall, but the cloud moves faster. The chemical agent hits the defenders. It is concentrated tear gas mixed with a respiratory irritant. It sears the eyes like hot pokers. The corporal drops his rifle, clawing at his throat. He falls to his knees, retching violently. Mucus pours from his nose and mouth. The gas burns exposed skin like acid. 2 Marines try to hold their breath and fire at the door, but their eyes swell shut within seconds. They fire blindly into the ceiling and the floor. The bullets spark harmlessly off the server racks. The room fills with the opaque white fog. The sound of coughing and vomiting drowns out the hum of the electronics. Outside, the Chinese team leader nods. The suppression is complete. The engineer packs linear cutting charges along the door hinges and the locking mechanism. He runs the detonator wire back around the corner. The team covers their ears. The explosion is contained but violent. The charges sever the steel hinges instantly. The heavy blast door, no longer anchored, falls inward. It crushes the barricade of desks and servers, landing with a ground-shaking crash. The way is open. The room is filled with gas and incapacitated defenders. 2:40 hours, inside the command center. The room is a choking white fog of tear gas. Visibility is less than 5 feet. The heavy steel door lies flat on the floor, pinning the crushed wreckage of the barricade beneath it. The only light comes from the flashing red emergency strobes and the blue LEDs of the server towers lining the back wall. The air hisses with the sound of escaping coolant from bullet-riddled pipes. The Chinese assault team floods through the breach. Their gas masks look like insect eyes in the gloom. They move methodically, sweeping the room for resistance. A blinded U.S. Marine stumbles out of the fog. He swings a heavy metal chair blindly. The steel leg connects with a Chinese soldier's shoulder. The soldier grunts, absorbing the blow. He steps inside the Marine's guard. He drives the muzzle of his assault rifle into the American's gut. He pulls the trigger. The muffled thump-thump of the suppressed weapon echoes. The Marine folds over, coughing blood into his gas-filled lungs, and collapses. On the left flank, the U.S. gunnery sergeant fights from his knees. He fires his pistol until the slide locks back. Click. He throws the empty weapon at the advancing shadows. He draws a combat knife. A Chinese point man rushes him. The two collide, crashing into a bank of monitors. Glass shatters. Keyboards fly into the air. The sergeant slashes the attacker's arm. The attacker counters, slamming a heavy boot into the sergeant's chest. The American falls back, gasping. The soldier finishes it with a burst of rifle fire. "Charges now!" the squad leader shouts through his mask. 2 combat engineers sprint toward the main server bank. These racks control the entire radar array. The engineers rip the metal faceplates off the towers. Plastic clips snap and fly across the room. They jam brick-sized blocks of high-explosive putty directly onto the motherboards. They stick incendiary thermite grenades onto the hard drive arrays. A surviving U.S. corporal tackles one of the engineers. They hit the floor hard. The American punches the engineer's mask, cracking the lens. The engineer struggles, reaching for his sidearm. A second Chinese soldier steps up and swings his rifle stock. It connects with the corporal's helmet. The American goes limp, rolling off the engineer. The engineer scrambles back up. He connects the detonator wires with trembling hands. He twists the timer dial. A red light blinks on the explosive pack. "Set!" he yells. The squad leader fires a final suppressing burst into the far corner of the room. He checks the room. The defenders are down. The objective is rigged. The time to leave is now. 2:45 hours. Main corridor, ground level. The countdown timer on the lead engineer's wrist blinks rapidly. 10 minutes to detonation. The squad leader screams the retreat command into his headset. The Chinese Marines turn and sprint. They retrace their steps through the ruined facility, boots pounding hard on the blood-slicked concrete. They hurdle the bodies of the fallen defenders and the twisted wreckage of the locker barricades. Breathing is heavy, ragged, amplified by the gas masks. They burst from the stairwell into the shattered main lobby. The humid tropical air hits them like a physical wall, mixing with the lingering tear gas. A lone U.S. Jeep screeches around the corner of the generator shed outside. Its headlights cut through the darkness, blinding the exiting assault team. The gunner in the turret racks the bolt of his machine gun. He opens fire. Thump, thump, thump. Heavy rounds chew up the doorframe. Concrete chips fly into the faces of the lead Chinese soldiers. They dive for cover behind the reception desk. The heavy bullets shred the wood, punching through to the wall behind. The Chinese rear guard drops to one knee in the center of the lobby. He ignores the incoming fire. He shoulders a grenade launcher. He aims at the blinding headlights. Thump. The grenade arcs through the night. It smashes through the Jeep's windshield and detonates inside the cabin. The vehicle erupts in a ball of fire. The blast throws the gunner clear of the turret. The burning Jeep swerves violently, crashing into a stack of fuel drums. A secondary explosion shakes the ground, sending a mushroom cloud of oily black smoke into the sky. "Go, go," the squad leader roars. The team breaks cover. They sprint across the cratered tarmac, ignoring the heat from the burning wreck. They hit the tree line, crashing through the dense foliage. Branches whip against their helmets and body armor. They slide down the muddy embankment onto the beach. Two black inflatable assault boats sit in the surf, engines idling with a low rumble. The boat crews wave frantically. The assault team wades into the waist-deep water. They throw their weapons into the hull and haul themselves over the rubber gunnels. One soldier drags a wounded comrade, his leg wrapped in a hasty tourniquet. Two others grab the wounded man's vest and heave him aboard. The coxswains gun the engines, the outboards roar. The props bite into the water, churning up a white wake. The boats lurch forward, burying their bows in the waves before planing out. They speed away from the island, disappearing into the black swell of the open ocean. Behind them, the radar station sits silent, a ticking time bomb waiting in the dark. 255 hours airspace above the atoll. Two U.S. attack helicopters tear across the night sky, their rotors chopping the humid air with a rhythmic thrum. They bank hard over the tree line, searchlights sweeping the jungle canopy. The beams cut through the darkness, illuminating the crushed fence line and the burning wreckage of the transport truck. The lead pilot spots the white wake of the retreating boats miles out in the open water. He toggles the weapon selection switch. The targeting pod locks onto the heat signature of the distant engines. He lines up the aircraft for a rocket run. Inside the ruined command center, deep underground, the red LED on the detonator stops blinking. It glows a solid, angry crimson. The timer reads 0. The explosion starts as a blinding white sphere in the server room. The high explosive charges detonate simultaneously. The blast wave vaporizes the server racks instantly. Plastic melts, steel shatters, and silicon turns to dust. The pressure expands outward at supersonic speed. It hammers against the concrete walls of the bunker. The structural integrity fails. The ground above the facility heaves. A geyser of fire and concrete erupts through the roof of the main building. The shockwave blows the massive steel blast doors out of the lobby entrance like champagne corks. They tumble across the tarmac, crushing a parked Jeep. The primary radar dish, a 40-ton steel array mounted on the roof, twists violently. The support struts snap with the sound of cannon fire. The dish buckles, folds in on itself, and collapses into the rising column of fire. The shockwave ripples out across the island. It flattens the surrounding jungle. Trees snap like toothpicks. The wall of air hits the hovering attack helicopters. The aircraft jolt violently sideways. The lead helicopter drops 50 feet. the rotors screaming as they fight for purchase in the turbulent air. The pilot fights the cyclic stick, pulling hard to regain stability. The cockpit alarms blare. He aborts the attack run, banking away from the inferno to avoid the debris raining from the sky. A mushroom cloud of black smoke and orange flame towers over the island. It blots out the stars. The radar station is gone. In its place is a glowing crater of twisted rebar and molten slag. The data is destroyed. On the horizon, the two assault boats vanish into the mist and the darkness of the vast ocean, leaving only a fading wake.